Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Us and My Life. Love you and I love you so much. Oh, 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 I just love you. I just like help. I just like help. I just like you too. I just like you. I just love you. Happy New Year! I love you, say goodbye. You're going to school, and that's okay. Yum, 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 yum. I just love you.
That's cool.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. This is Family Time, and I am your guest host today, Mary, covering for Mr. Oakley, who had some other things to take care of today. And I get joined today by an awesome guest, Gary. And today we're going to take a little bit from family and talk a little bit more about military. And about, life and what it's like and how everybody in this day and age have taken family for granted. And we really do. But, a lot of veterans that I talk to, including me, who I'm a 15-year Army veteran, we cherish it more. So I guess we go without it. And we get to see the loneliness of what life is like when you don't have a family. And so I want to introduce Gary and talk a little bit about your background and what you did and, who you are.
Thank you, Mary. Well, Mary, I'm from Hackettstown, New Jersey. It's a little town where they make the M&M candies. No, I'm a United States Army veteran. I was attached to 78th Division Combat Engineers, and that was back in 1975. And I went to DeWitt Clinton High School in New York City. I was on a sports scholarship to NYU, and I had, so much education. I told this to Bob Oakley. I told my dad was a World War II veteran from Normandy and the Battle of the Bulge. And I said, I'm so tired of education. I says, I want to do something different. And I love anything that's mechanical. And I enlisted into the 78th Division, 1975. And I was shipped off to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where I then became 62 Foxtrot, which is basically a crane operator. And then I
you went
wound
to
up
Camp
actually
Misery.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And I did both my basic and my AIT there. Yeah, I did everything there. And then in addition to that, I actually got 18 endorsements on every piece of heavy equipment I got my hands on. And the Army taught me a lot. They took all the rough edges off of me, and they rounded me out. And even when I came home, my dad said to me too. He goes, I see the man you've become now. I wasn't the little kid with the hot rod cars anymore. I was a more trained, focused individual. But like I said, I heard you say something prior in your entrance. You mentioned about lonely days. I had said that to someone. I said, I remember spending Christmas in the field with some guys. I said that literally, oh my goodness, it was only just us, a couple of platoons of guys where we just put our M16s together and put a little flag up on the top, and we spent Christmas, and we sang Christmas songs, and we said prayers, and literally freezing to death in Korean gear, and but it was a family. We were a family, and we were from all different nationalities and religious beliefs. But as I mentioned this to Bob, I says, we were family. And we really made the best of it. And yes, we had hard days, we had good days. I mean, that's part of military life, but you move along with it. And I was offered a warrant officer, but I turned it down because I became a Spec 6. I was Specialist 6 class. I didn't want to authorize anybody around. I just felt everybody knew their job well, and we all did our jobs well, and that was what was important to me. But other than that, when I came home back in the 80s, I went to work for North American Van Lines, a moving company, and I didn't have a foggiest idea what it was about, but I'll summarize it very quickly. I'm a people person, and I managed to actually secure major national accounts and became a director of marketing for North American Van Lines, moving corporations such as Nabisco and ADP and ADT and Sharp Electronics and Merck Pharmaceuticals. And I told Bob I literally relocated, I think, about 2,500 companies in the state of New Jersey.
Oh, wow.
And, and then after that, and I will tell you this, my military background had a lot to do with being focused on what I did. And my boss always used to say to me, I wish I could clone you. I said, what? And he says, I wish I could make 3 guys. He goes, I've never met anybody like you. And I know from there, I moved on to Japan, Maruka, USA, out of Kobe, Japan. Again, it's machinery. It's injection molding machines, Toyo, and CNC machines, Moriseki. And I stood there 9 years because I simply loved the Japanese people. It's such a great culture. And I did so well with them, and we did such a fantastic job. And every one of us that was employed there were all former military. Because to work for Japan, you need to be humble, and you need to be a very focused individual. And that goes on. That's about half of my life story, Mary.
Oh, we don't have the hours to do a life story with when you serve in the military. And I always joke about, because I have 2 special needs kids. They're both on the spectrum. And so I always joke that the Army life should be a prerequisite for raising special needs kids, because it teaches you patience. It teaches you sarcasm and a sense of humor.
Yes.
And it teaches you how to just go with the flow and pivot on a regular basis.
Right. I mean, I would say the word adapt is the major core part of being in the military. Adapting.
You adapt and overcome.
You adapt and overcome because you're faced with so many different situations, and you might not like exactly what it is, but you adapt and you move forward, and you overcome the obstacle. Yeah. And I've carried that throughout my life, Mary. Yes.
I think we all do for the most part, or a lot of us do. It's like when I started my business, because I run Support of Mind, so I help veterans overcome trauma and PTSD and help them just figure out their purpose and help them get direction in the civilian world. And on the flip side, I work with autism families and teach them how to accept them and work with them, not against them, and see kids as kids and not puppies that need to be trained to obey commands. And so many people just are so tunnel vision on. Have Grandma help him, please. about what we expect. And, you know, the biggest thing is never quitting and never giving up. You know, when I started my business, everyone always asked, what would you do if it failed? And I looked at them and I go, I don't know. I never thought of it because failure is not an option, which did get me in trouble a few times in the military for smart comments. Because this is back in the mid-2000s, and it was back when they started shying away from smoking in the Army. And so my sergeant would always lecture me about quitting, and I go, I can't. He goes, why? I go, it's my gateway quitting. Your ethos says we will never quit. So if I quit smoking, where's it going to end?
Well, I could remember picking up, I was policing the area with a butt can, picking up everybody's cigarettes. We all did. We had to make a huge line and just like, okay, it's time to pick up all the cigarette butts.
Oh, I still have the problem where I throw them, I police or take off the end, and then I throw the butts in my pocket. So when we do laundry, my husband just takes my pants and just sets them aside. He goes, you deal with it because I'm not emptying your pockets out.
That is so funny. And, they did frown upon smoking back in the day because we did a lot of field trips. And because of the frigid weather, it affected our breathing as you're, 29-mile, field runs with 2 breaks. That's hard on your lungs, especially if you're smoking. Because a lot of guys fell back, and you can't do it. So you got to kind of you got to adapt. And they actually told us back in the day, you want to take a hint, quit smoking. And that was it. That was that. I did want to ask you a question. In the time that you served, did you carry an atropine injector with you?
I did not.
Okay, because I did. It was for nerve agent.
It depended on what unit you were with and what you were doing.
Yeah.
And so
I was curious about that.
I didn't.
Yeah.
A lot of our special forces do.
Yeah.
But me, being a girl.
Well, like I said to Bob back in my day, I says we didn't have any women with us. I didn't know what it would be like to have women in the military with us. He was laughing.
I personally, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, women, if you can do everything as well as a man does, then you'd belong in the military. I did aviation. I did medics. But we do not belong on the front lines at all. If you happen to end up on the front lines due to a job, you're trained to deal with that, but you shouldn't be put into positions where you're automatically put on the front line. And a lot has to do with being a man. You guys are hardwired no matter what to protect a woman. So when shit hits the fan, and a good example is the Jessica Lynch story. Look at what happened with her. You guys are going to stop what you're doing to protect us, and you're going to leave someone else uncovered. It's just genetics and how you're wired. Nothing's going to change that. And you get a 300-pound man. Most women cannot subdue them.
Well, I will tell you this, the God's honest truth. My first AIT, my first training on my first hydraulic crane actually was a first lieutenant. And she was, at first, I kind of chuckled because I kind of liked her. and I was like, when me and the guys were laughing, well, I got to tell you, we took heat for that. And I was like, okay, I got to straighten out here. This isn't going to work. But I will tell you this. She turned out to be one of my best instructors. I'll never forget. She trained us the most professional way, even right down to the testing. I mean, she was good. And, again, I didn't anticipate a female instructor on these massive, heavy pieces of equipment. But she knew her stuff. And I'll be honest with you, if I needed anybody in the field with me to back me up, I would want her. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So I honestly tell you, I mean, we had guys from Hawaii in the field. They started shaking, and they couldn't deal with the inclement weather. And we actually had to put them on a plane and send them home because we can't drag. We can't, how do I explain it to you? I can't carry the extra weight.
No.
You follow? Yeah.
Oh, no, and I
he couldn't
completely
carry
understand that because
yeah.
we went through that with a lot of females in the military is because you're allowed to deduct 10% of your pack based on your body weight. And so I didn't personally. I kept everything on mine. But because women are prone to hip fractures because your pack sits on your hips, and your packs weigh 100 and some pounds.
Right.
But so then if you have to carry all your stuff,
right.
If you don't pack your stuff, it has to go into somebody else's. So now someone else is taking that extra weight, and I don't think that's right.
Wow. Well, no. I know we had to share the M60. We had to, you know, let's say, we called it the baby. Who's carrying the baby today? I'm not carrying it for, you're going to carry it. I'm not carrying it, but you carry it. But you know, I understand what you're saying. We didn't have those regulations back then. So, like, here it is. I'm in 3 layers of Korean gear, and we're dealing with negative temperatures. And then in addition to that, you know, you're dealing with a foreign place. And then in addition to that, there's no such thing as stopping, and you got to keep going. I mean, no matter how much you're weighing. Like, I'm 6'3", and now even today I'm, 200 pounds, but I'm 6'3". But, you know, I'm not fat, but I'm just, you know, I'm a big guy. And us guys back then, they looked at us. Yeah, they looked at us like, oh, you American. And I was like, yeah. And Jonesy was from Tennessee, and he always reminded me of Country Boy for some reason or another, because I listened to Country Boy. And Jonesy was that way. He had a certain crack about, and he was from Memphis, Tennessee. And Jonesy was the, you know, only African American guy on the crew. And so, like, Foss was from Louisiana, and Gonzalez was from Los Angeles, and I was from the East, and Gentry was from Chicago. So I could go on and on with these names. But long story short, we all kind of looked at each other because we're big guys and we're tall. And I says, "What's an American?" We didn't know. I was like, I mean, these ladies are really tiny. And I'm like, what? I had Bob laughing with this. I said, "Bob, what's an American?" And he goes, "I don't know, Gary." But long story short.
Anyone over 6 feet.
I guess so. And I was, and I was like laughing my head off. And I was like, well, let's look at Jonesy. Maybe she means him. And Jonesy looked at us and said, "Don't pick on me." He goes, "It's not me." I said, okay. But those are days you won't forget. And you mentioned about family. That was my family in the military. And us guys were so close. I got to be honest with you. We try to stay together, you know, through Facebook and, you know, all different forms of media. But, you know, everybody moves on with their lives, you know. It's totally understandable. And it's just funny. I mean, you think back. Did I overstep somebody? My apologies.
No, you're good. It's my son.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, that being said, Mary, military life, many people ask me, "Gary, what was it like being in the military?" I says, here's how it goes. I says, you can simplify it. You can make life tough for yourself, or you can make it easy. I says, you've got to be prone to dealing with discipline. I says, if you're not a person who can deal with discipline and orders, I says, then the military, whether it's the Marines, the United States Army, the Air Force, whatever, I says, that's not a place for you. I says, and if you go in there just because of college or whatever the recruiter tell you, I says, you need to, like, give yourself a second thought on that. Think about a vocational school. I says, but remember something first. I says, whatever branch of the military, because I always listen to Len Kane, his stories, and he was a combat pilot. You know, his MOS might have been changed many times, but his main duty was combat. He was combatant, and that's it. And that's literally what I explain to everybody. You're a soldier first before whatever your job MOS is. I said, so, you know, moving forward, I says, you got to understand, if in a split second you need to turn into combat mode, then you've got to be able to, you know, be disciplined and take orders and do what you're told. And that's kind of like, I live by that till today.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, is when you come, you know, coming back and having that option to think and say, oh, you're just full of crap, and not do something, because it's like automatic. You do it because you're told to do it.
Yep.
But, you know, you brought up a good point, because so many kids enlist just to go to college and pay for college. When I went to boot camp, we had a girl that she literally tried to quit the first day of boot camp because she didn't realize we were going to get real rifles.
Right. Oh. Oh.
Yeah. She joined the Army and didn't realize we were getting real.
Hello. Yeah, that's the real deal.
And we're looking at her like, you joined the Army, you didn't join the Air Force.
Right.
And then
I mean, Bob sees that I go to the range, you know, every week, and he sees what I do. I have all sorts of, you know, guns, firearms, and Bob says, "Wow, you're amazing." He says, I can't believe what you do. I says, well, you know what it is? I grew up with this, and then it was instilled in me in the military. And I says, and I've been doing it all my life. So I said, for me, it's just second nature. I says, you know, it's, and I'm more than sure you know this too, safety first.
Yeah.
And, right. And especially as a medic.
Safety and respect.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
It's safety
absolutely.
and respect. Because, like, I grew up with hunting, and, you know, I could hunt. I went with my uncles, you know, before I could even walk. And we always had the rifle sitting behind the chair by the door, the toolbox or tackle box looking thing full of shells. We were told, you don't touch it. We didn't touch it. Right. And it blows my mind to hear all these kids that are shooting themselves at a very young age with guns. It's like, do you not teach them at home that these are not toys? And we had squirt guns and, you know, Nerf guns and cap guns and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, my dad, he was in World War II, and he was sent to Dix on a draft, and I have his tags. I still carry his tags. And he was shipped off to Fort Dix in New Jersey. And from there, they were put on I guess a Liberty ship, I called them at that time. And they were sent to England first. So he was 1 year. He was 1 year prior to June the 6th. And Dad and I had some long conversations. And I said to him, I says, let me ask you. I says, you were there 1 year prior to the invasion. I says, what were you doing? He says, well, I was in ordnance. He says, I had to deliver all the logistics to 4 divisions. And he says, Gary, that was no easy task. He says, trust me, you've got a lot of pressure on top of you. He says, because we didn't know what exactly was happening, but we knew something was going to happen. So we had to really hustle. You know, and that's a lot. I mean, 4 divisions, that's a lot of ammunition. So, and mind you, very, very conventional days, 1940, I guess it's 1943. And so I grew up with a father who was very humble, very understanding, and taught me a lot of things. And Bob knows that. Bob spoke with my father many times. And that being said, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for my dad. And that's the God's honest truth. You know, he didn't believe in force training you. He wanted you to learn on your own. If you made a mistake, you pick up and you learn from your mistakes and you keep going. You know, but never to quit. Keep doing it until you get it right.
That's the blessing and the curse at the same time.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. it was. I mean,
you know, because you'd bang your, hopefully metaphorically, but you'd bang your head against the wall, 20 different times trying to figure out how to fix this or do this. And you mess up a lot of stuff in the process. I know I go through this with my son right now.
My boss did not know I served in the military when I went to work for North American Van Lines. And I'll tell you a quick story. I'm sitting down one day, and, with North American Van Lines, there's two divisions. There's a household division and a commercial division. So they threw me in the household division. Mary, I just took a job. I didn't care. I just took a job. So my boss comes up to me one day. I didn't realize that he was basically tied in with the CEO of Nabisco Brands, RJR Reynolds. So he hands me this little article, and he says, Gary, he goes, do me a favor. He goes, read this article. So I read the article, and he goes, what do you think it is? I says, it's about 300 people moving from origin to destination. He says, really? I says, yeah. He goes, do you think you can dig it up? I says, absolutely. So I did some research back in those days. You got to remember, we didn't have computers. And
that was just what I was going to say. This was before the Internet.
Oh, yeah, way before the Internet. And long story short, I wound up getting the proposal to move a big accounting firm out of Newark, New Jersey. It was called the Arthur Anderson Company. And I got the proposal. We did the job, and we got the job. And then the next minute, I'm in a suit and tie, and I'm working for North American Van Lines, moving corporations. Yeah. And so then he made me a project manager, and so I was a combination of both marketing and project management. And that's why I said to you, he says, how is it you know what you know? But I didn't tell him it came from the military. I never did. Because he says you never stop. And Mary, I will not lie to you. Do you know how many competitive companies try to come after me because I already had the job before they even bid on it?
A lot.
So that was the persistence I had from the military. It gave you that nonstop. You got to keep going.
But you got also one other thing in which makes you magnetism is you carry a presence.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, and I didn't realize this until I had someone explain it to me. It was like when I do seminars and stuff, the way we talk, the way we hold ourselves, we carry a certain presence that people automatically gravitate towards.
Yes. Yes. And Joe did say that to me. He says, how do you manage to magnetize people? I says, I don't know. I says, I guess it's just me. I says, I don't get it. He says, well, I got big bosses of corporations. Who is this guy, Gary? And I'll tell you another quick story. And you know UPS, correct?
Yep.
All right. Well, they were headquartered out of Connecticut. And, back in the day, I used to have a cork board, and I had all my little articles up on there. That was my computer. And I was following their relocation to Atlanta, Georgia for quite some time. So I used to just send them my card. I'd send them my information, just call up and just a jingle, say, hi, how's your day going? Just wanted to follow up. And if there's anything I could do for you, I'd be more than glad to, come in and speak with you. Well, over about 2.5 years, my secretary comes up to me screaming her lungs off, saying, Gary, Gary, Gary. And I said, what? And she goes, you're not going to believe it. She goes, but you got the bid. She goes, for the big bid for UPS down to Atlanta, Georgia. And I was like, I what? And she goes, yeah. She goes, oh, my God. Well, I got to tell you, a big explosion happened after that. Those people liked me so much up there from staying in touch with them. The company, the Malloy brothers, out of Connecticut, they were sleeping on their account. They didn't watch the account. And I came in not knowingly. I didn't know that it was a national account. And my boss calls me in the office. He said, and he's laughing. He says, Gary, sit down. I says, why? He goes, well, you know the way Nabisco is with us. We control Nabisco. He says, well, that's the way UPS is with the Malloy brothers. I says, what does that got to do with me? He goes, well, you just stole their entire account away from them. And I says, I did what? He goes, I know you didn't mean it. Well, the phone rings, and it was Jim Malloy. And Jim Malloy says, Joe, who the heck is this guy Gary? He goes, where did he come from? He goes, he stole my account right out from under my nose. And they were two old-time Irishmen. And I will tell you this, as God is my witness, they laughed their heads off like you wouldn't believe. So Jim Malloy says, Joe, can I steal this guy from you? And I'm sitting there like, oh, my God, what did I do? But the moral of the story here is, if you stay persistent with something positive is going to come out of it.
Amen.
Okay? Oh, Mr. Oakley, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you.
I'm glad. Okay. How's your day going?
Some great stories, Gary. I'm glad you're covering those.
Okay.
Hi, Mary.
Yeah. Hey,
Hi,
Mary.
How you doing?
I know she was taking care of one of the.
I had a little bit. I had a little bit of a meltdown I had to deal with. You know how my household gets.
You guys are doing a great job here. Thank you for covering for me.
No problem, Bob. Anytime. I'm telling Mary some stories of some of my ventures in my life, starting from the military forward,
Yep.
And I was telling her about my dad, Bob, about, his service, as a World War II veteran. And I told her, you spoke with Dad many times, right?
Yep, I talked with him many times. He was a great man, and he, he was awarded, I understand, from 8 different countries, giving him medals because of all the things he did to assess those help those countries during the World War. And I just think that's an amazing accomplishment. And Gary, did you tell him how long your parents were alive?
Yeah, Dad was 105 and Mom was 100.
Yeah.
And I took care of both of them right to the end. And Mary, I gave them full honors.
Yeah, see, God blessed them with not only a lot of knowledge and wisdom and helping other people, but He also blessed them with tremendous long life, and because He wanted them to be around more, so that they could influence other people, which they have for many, many years. They influenced me tremendously, both of them. And including you, Gary, but I think that I thought it was appropriate for this conversation to go on the show because it was not only family oriented, but it was also oriented to personal experiences over life in the military, and I think that was very important.
No, I thank you, Bob. I really do thank you. Because, like Dad, many times, him and I had many private conversations about his term, in Europe. And I will tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I said to Dad many times, I don't know how you did it. Because the Battle of the Bulge in itself was was a major task. The winters there, and you'd be surprised from the time from Normandy to the Bulge, and then to the Rhine up in Germany, and then coming back alive in one piece. I mean, that's got to say something, And because I said to Dad, I says, how did you grip with it? I mean, you're dealing with flying bombs from Germany. I mean, how did you cope with this severe combat? But he says, Gary, we did, and we smoked a lot. He goes, we smoked a lot. That's what he said. We smoked a lot.
Well, God was watching out for him. God was certainly on his side and watching out for him and helping him.
I know. Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
A friend of this radio show here just passed away recently. His name was Peter Hadley. He was actually a survivor of the Kinder train from the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh, wow.
He was brought over here as a child by U.S. soldiers.
Oh.
And he shares he shares a story about it, but not knowing exactly what his name was and how old he was, because back during that time, England had an agreement that they'd send trains over to Germany for the Jewish people to put their kids on it and ship them back to England so they'd be safe. And one of the trains during the Battle of the Bulge got bombed, and he was one of 3 survivors.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Well, God bless him. I mean, that was a hard era, a hard life, but I mean, God was with them at that time.
And a close personal friend of mine, he's have you heard of Papa Jake?
No, I haven't, Mary.
He is a World War II Battle of the Bulge, Battle of Normandy soldier. And what's really cool is he's 101. And he grew up in the neighboring town where I live, and I got to meet him in person. His kids and his grandkids made him tell his stories on TikTok and YouTube. And he, to this day, when I sit and talk to him and have conversations with him, he can tell you the names of every soldier he signed up and sent to the front lines and where on the front lines he sent them to. He was the man that actually did the orders.
Wow. Well, Mary, even up to like his later years, 105, Dad was pretty sharp about his memory of his time there. Like I used to question him. We used to have a lot of conversations on that. And he knew a lot of details. I mean, honestly, my father, I think, was a human encyclopedia. I mean, you got to remember from 1917 forward, I mean, God blessed him with a lot of years. And, he still had his senses until the good Lord took him. Really, and he was a sharp man. No, he was sharp. Oh yeah. And one thing my father was a firm believer in, and that's also from the military. And he said to me, Gary, one thing about this life, he goes, is respect. He says, when people respect each other, he says, that means a lot in life. He says, no matter what your stature is in life, whether you're rich or you're poor or you're middle class or whatever you are, he says, but respect is the most important thing in this life. And he says, without that, he says, you're going to have a lot of dissension and all kinds of craziness going on. But he says, if people would respect each other more, he says, then life would be much more simplified. That's coming from a 105-year-old man.
I think that fits right in with what Len Kane always talks about, loving people and being kind to them. Because kindness,
yes, he does.
Is a way of showing respect for people,
Yes, he does. I mean, Len Kane, I could listen to him for hours when he speaks about kindness and he speaks about the different aspects of, of people, no matter, where they are or who they are. whatever they are, wherever they might be. He goes, but an act of kindness goes such a long way. And he's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because
So,
even though we're in a more... go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry.
When you hear Len Kane talking about the kindness program for kids,
yeah, Mary,
that was the program my daughter created when she was 5.
Oh, wow. Wow.
She started the Kindness Club, right, Mary, in school?
Yep.
And that's part of Len Kane's. That's part of Len Kane's kindness program.
Yeah, they're partners on that program.
Yep.
That is amazing. Wow. 5 years old.
Yep. She's one of those that thinks that there's no such thing as bad people, that bad people just need more love and then they'll be good. And she wanted a program in her school that she could join because she couldn't really do sports. She couldn't really do a lot of the stuff.
Right.
And so she thought this would be something that she could do and that she could teach other kids to stop bullying, because she gets bullied a lot because she's different.
Oh. That's nice. And you see, she created a nice program. That's, God bless her. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice.
Yeah. She's one of those kids that takes a 20-minute grocery store trip into an hour, because every time she sees somebody, she's got to offer to help them. Like if they're trying to reach for something on the shelf and they can't reach it, she'll go and get it for them, or she'll help unload their carts. She's one of those good kids.
You know, it's funny, Mary. We're talking about this. I had to stop in the office management today to pay my rent, and I'm sitting down talking to Natasha, and I says, as we're entering now a new year, I says, I think people, and I thought of Len Kane for some reason, and I said, I think people need to take a new approach. I says, because, we're all not getting any younger. Let's put it that way. I says, but I think people need to be a little more kinder. I says, because kindness goes a long way. I said, so all the bickering and the arguing, I says, it really doesn't get any place. I says, it don't even add up to anything. I says, but if you put a little touch of kindness on something, I says, you'd be surprised how much it blossoms and flowers. I says, and then that other person sprouts kindness, and then the person that they touch sprouts kindness, and it just keeps. And she was listening to me, and she says, Gary, wouldn't that be nice if this world took on that approach? I says, well, I'm going to try. It'll start with me. That's what I told her.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary, it's Country Boy.
Hey, Country Boy. Happy New Year, brother.
I love it. That's one of the most powerful things that I think I learned when I was a child. I never thought as a child, but one of the most powerful things that my grandmama ever said to me is, baby, don't be envying nobody else. God made you in his own image. And that's when I started saying, ain't nobody can do what you do like you do when you do what you do. But my grandmama's way of saying that is the same thing that you just said. Wherever you go and whatever you do, you let your little light shine. But that wasn't the good part. You let your little light shine it unconsciously. I love that word. Unconsciously, it would allow other people to do the same. So when we was in elementary school, they interpreted it a different way. They said, smile, Mary, and the world will smile back at you. And as we grew older, we understand now that that's one of the most important things in the world that anyone could ever do, regardless of what their background, whether it be military, whether you have a GED, it doesn't really matter. When you share that kind of kindness, Len Kane, eventually the kindness that you share will come back to you regardless on who you share it with. It may not and probably will not come back from the person that you originally shared it from. But again, last part of that is love has no condition and it has no reason. I used to walk in places and they like, what are you smiling about? What do you mean, what am I smiling about? Would you rather me frown? I don't even have to be thinking about nothing. I can still be grinning because all my thoughts are good, because when God said it was good, salt was good and it was good. And if you got a little grin, a little smirk on your face, then that probably means your brain is trying to conjure up something kind or something good or something good to say to somebody. And if you do that, what goes around comes right back around, just like Joel Griffin taught us. It's called a cycle of appreciation.
Amen.
Amen. Yep. Amen. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
And it's
man,
funny, Mary, you
doing over there? Was that Bob? Oh man, you there?
Yes, that is.
I'm going to be dropping off, guys, because I have to get back to work. I appreciate all of you guys who are on the program today, and Mary, I appreciate you so much for hosting.
Mother, what's your password again?
I know you're a very busy woman, and you're also, I believe, going back to school for some classes. Is that right?
I'm sorry, what was that, Bob? I missed that.
Okay. Wow.
I'll repeat what he said. He said he's just appreciating you because of all the things that you have on your agenda. You still take the time out to share with people, even though you're a student now going back to school to learn things so that you can pay it forward and share what you've learned with somebody else.
Yep.
Did I get
yeah,
Bob?
I've actually just finished my neurodynamic training, so I'm trained in NLP, timeline therapy, kinesiology, EFT tapping, and a bunch of.
Yeah, you know, Mary, I went to college for 12 and a half years, and it wasn't because I was a slow learner, but it was because I was a very busy man. I was working full time, and I was raising a large family, so I had a lot on my slate already. And so I took college a couple of courses a semester in order to finish. So I know what you're going through. It's a lot of extra work, and but it's worth it in the long run.
So, Bob,
it really is.
Bob, you have a doctorate's degree?
No.
I'm going to call you
degree. I had 2 undergraduate degrees. One in
I'm going to call you Dr. Oakley.
Electronics engineering, and one in business. Because I didn't when I got to my electronics engineering degree first, and I wasn't real pleased with that field. So then I went into business, because that's what I really wanted to do, was get into business. I've been doing that ever since.
Hey, Gary.
I started my first business in high school. I was selling candy bars in high school. If I'd been doing that today, they put me in jail.
It's funny you should say that, because my son broke the school record for 4 consecutive years selling candy. Yep. And then after he got his last little $50 certificate to McDonald's for selling more candy, I think he sold over $3,000 worth of candy.
Wow.
He had everybody in the neighborhood that now has diabetes. He's responsible.
Wow.
He was the sugar dealer for the community. But at the same time, you know, when you start to look at the competitions and what we do and what degree you do it at, people make fun of me all the time, because I spent also, Bob, 12 and a half years in college. They say Country Boy has more degrees than a thermometer. But at the same time, when I flipped the coin over and I found out when I was watching TV back in the days, I used to like Dr. Phil and then Dr. Ruth. But in my early days, I admired a guy named Dr. J and Dr. Dre. Well, Dr. J played basketball. Dr. Dre was a rapper. Dr. Phil wasn't even a doctor. Dr. Ruth wasn't even a doctor. So they said, "Are you a doctor?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I work on hearts. I do open heart surgery with my mouth." I let the meditations in my heart be utilized to heal you. No, I'm serious. No, it doesn't matter what degree you are as long as you're living a purpose-driven life. Because, again, you take it away with you, and Brenda and Marick and everybody's starting to use it because it's no joke that everybody, if you're reading and understand, was designed in the divine creator, that's what I call him, own image. And when I say ain't nobody can do what you do like you do when you do what you do, how would you like to be married?
Yeah.
No, seriously, the mother. The mother Mary. How would you like to carry around 2 kids for 9 months? You think a backpack is heavy. Oh, I got jokes.
You're right. That's a tough task. That is a tough one.
I got jokes. Mary, you hear me talking about you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I heard you mention the carrying around somebody else's weight. If you just happen to be a female, they're going to give you all your backpack weight to Gary. But ask him if he ever carried around a baby for 9 months. on the front line. And in the grocery line. And stuck in traffic.
So for ex-military, you'll understand this. Take your backpack, turn it around, and put it on your front. It's the same amount of weight.
Oh, that's a good one, Mary. That's a good one, Mary.
Yeah, just make sure you lower it a little bit lower so you can't bend over and see your feet.
Oh.
Now,
There's
let me
a
throw
reason
a
why
curveball back
I have
in
a
here.
pair of slip-on shoes when I'm pregnant because I know they're going to match, and they're only one pair.
Now, why does she do that? Yeah, I missed it earlier, but I've been studying since I've been up here in the country real quiet, studying love. The 2 words for the year for me when I talk to people about love is it has no reason and it has no condition. Why do we do the things that we do? Why did you enroll into the military? Why did you decide to have not 1, but 2 children? Why in the world did
I
you
didn't
decide
on
to
how
marry?
many kids to have. They just happened.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. Love has no conditions. For God so loved the world that he gave. After he says gave, it didn't have no reasons, it didn't have no condition, because if it had a condition, that's where love stops at. That means that everybody in America would be constipated if we didn't understand that I did what I did because that's what the divine creator put in me to do. Even if it's a trash man, even if you sweep the streets for a living, even if you run the donut shop and you got to get up early to make the donuts, it doesn't matter that we as a people, all the men and all the boys and all the girls, we got to come together to help make a better world. It's like making, my grandmama used to have all these metaphors, and I didn't even know what a metaphor was, but she would explain to me about life while she was making a cake, how she had to put a pinch of this in there, not too much of that. You can't have too many loud, obnoxious, crazy, ungrateful people around you. If I put too many of those in there, it won't turn out right. If I don't put enough of this in there, it won't ride. If I don't wait and learn patience, it won't get crispy and brown. It was all a lesson, and that's where we are now, y'all. Everything that we've been through up until this very point to get us to where we are, because the divine creator is not trying to figure out how to get Mary to her destiny. He sent her across the world. Then he brought her back home. Then he sent her to 911. Then he sent her over here and then sent her over there. And go help the foundation over here and go into the school system. If you ever had any question mark, God wouldn't keep growing you like that. That's why you are living that purpose-driven life. And if you hadn't showed up, the world would never be the same, Mary. I'm just like Oakman and just like Gary. I don't think that they give you enough thanks. And I'm not talking about certificates and plaques and trophies. Maybe sometimes a high five to me feels better than a certificate. Just knowing that people love you and appreciate what you do. Watch this, Mary, behind the scenes. And I'll kind of just stop right there, because most of the stuff that you do, most people don't ever get a chance or opportunity to see it, but they get an opportunity to experience it. I'm not preaching, y'all. I've been talking. You say amen if you want to, Gary.
Amen.
Without me, country boy, your life would be boring.
Oh. It's
all
a
I know
beautiful
is
day
that
in the neighborhood.
the good Lord gave us all a brand new year, and it's a brand new start. And today is a day where we all need to actually make that brand new start for the rest of the year. So what Lane Kane talked about, kindness, we should actually grow on that.
And then to you, Mary, when he said, I'm getting ready to do a new thing that eyes have never seen and ears have never heard of. Mary, when you said you was going back to school and you said, yeah, I'm studying this, and this. Now, I'm college trained too, but 5 out of the 6 things that you just mentioned, I've never heard of before in my life. But see, that's what we're talking about. You're doing what no one else on this planet can do, Mary, except you, sweetie. We love you.
And I have my international autism certification now.
Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Now, that's a new
nice.
thing. It may not be for everybody else, but I spent 40 years of my life working with autistic kids, just like Mary had. But what she just said she just accomplished, I've never even heard of. It's an honor and a privilege just to know you, sweetie, because you're doing things in another realm that nobody I know in my life has the courage to do.
So we are almost out of time for today.
Oh, she's right.
It does. It takes a lot of patience.
A lot of patience, yes. But that's a special person you are, Mary. Yes. But you see, God instilled that inside you, Mary. I think, is he calling me? Did he just say Gary?
He said, hurry, I'm not moving fast enough for him. He's having problems with
Gary.
his
I was like,
all right.
Well,
so join us next Thursday for another episode. I got to go because he's going to have a meltdown. His patience is wearing out.
That's okay, Mary.
Love you, Mary. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay.
All right, go.